Owner's manual? Please, who reads those? Take a look at this. This is a binder or folder that holds all of the owner's manuals for a Toyota Tundra. All right, first and foremost, this is the owner's manual. 724 pages long, right here. Over here, you've got the navigation system owner's manual, 328 pages long. Then, of course, you've got the warranty and maintenance guide, 76 pages long. I mean, take a look at this. Who's going to sit down and read this from beginning to end in any one of these? I mean, most people are going to maybe thumb through it real quickly when they get their car. They'll maybe reference it if they run into a problem. But really, no one's going to read these from beginning to end. At least most people won't. Now, with the Tesla Model 3, you don't get a physical manual. But what you do get is an owner's manual that's in your car. You can read that, or you can get it online. And instead of 700 plus pages that you have for the Toyota Tundra, it's only 184 pages long. So why wouldn't you still read the owner's manual? Well, I, like many other people, didn't bother. Until recently, I decided it'd probably be a good idea. And believe it or not, I actually discovered a few new things. Something many people don't think about when it comes to their smaller cars, like the Tesla Model 3, are load limits for both the trunk and of course, in this case, the frunk. So here's what the manual recommends. Anything in the upper portion of the trunk should not exceed 130 pounds. That, of course, also includes this top shelf. Pretty sturdy and solid, but as the manual states, you shouldn't exceed 130 pounds. Now, Tesla also recommends that you put all of your heaviest items in the lower portion of the trunk. However, that shouldn't exceed 285 pounds. And, of course, the unique front trunk in the Tesla Model 3, otherwise known as the FRUNK, should not exceed 55 pounds. So as it states in the manual, if you exceed any of these load limits, it could cause damage to the car. Now, one of the unique features of the Tesla Model 3 is the front trunk. And this is actually a topic that's highly debated and argued about, and not to mention complained about at Tesla. In fact, many people just wish they would make this thing open up automatically and close automatically. But until Tesla does something about that, if ever, there is a proper way to close the front trunk. Now, the first initial reaction is to take this thing and just slam it down shut. But Tesla doesn't recommend that. The other thing that people tend to want to do is to close it down here, and then in one area in particular, right over the Tesla logo, is to push down and close it that way. But Tesla also doesn't recommend that, because that applies an area of force over one area, and that can not only create a crease, but possibly a dent as well. They also don't recommend that you push down on the very edge right here, because that can also create a crease. So here's a proper way to do it. As it's open like this, you push it down on the latch, but softly. You don't want to slam it down. The other thing to do then at that point is to use two hands. That's the best way to do it. On either side of the logo, you push down hard and you have it closed properly. Now, on a side note, there is an emergency release button inside the front trunk. Now, that is important to take note of, because not only if someone gets trapped in there, a very small someone, but if someone gets trapped in there, they need to know that that's available. But also it's important to know that Tesla recommends that if you put anything inside your front trunk, make sure that wherever it is, that it can't bump up against that emergency release, so you don't have an accidental opening of the frunk. One of the things you may not realize about the Tesla Model 3 is that there is no physical key to lock and unlock the doors, and not to mention start the car. But there are three types of keys. Number one, an authenticated phone. Number two, a key card, which you get two of them upon picking up the car. Or there is a key fob. That's the third option. However, that's going to cost you extra, about $150 at the Tesla store. Now, Tesla allows you to program up to 19 keys before they cut you off. Anything beyond that, you're going to have to delete at least one of those keys. Now, Tesla also recommends that you carry a backup, especially if you use your phone as your primary key, whether it's a key card or a fob. Now this next one I'm about to talk about may actually make me look a bit like a newbie, because it's actually quite a simple setting and it'd be something you would think pretty much everyone would know about. But what I find interesting is I haven't seen this discussed or talked about anywhere within the Tesla community. Of course, I watch a lot of videos, I read a lot of articles, and again, it's just something I haven't come across until, that is, I read the owner's manual. And it's called Easy Entry. And what that does is it allows you to adjust the seat and the steering wheel to make it easier for you to get in and out of the car. All right, so here's how you get to it. You tap on the profile settings and you can see the whole list there. My name, you got my wife, and you got Easy Entry. So you tap on that, and of course I've got the settings in there. But when you tap on that, it allows you to set the seat where you want it. It allows you to set the steering wheel. I've got the steering wheel as high as I can get it to go, and I've got the seat pretty high as well to get me higher off the ground to make it easier for someone who's tall like me to get out. So then I go back into my own personal setting. It's going to take my seat and steering wheel back to where I need it. Then I go in from there and I tap Driver Profile Settings. I then tap my name, and then you can see below my name on the right side is a checkbox called Use Easy Entry. You check that on for Easy Entry to come on when you're getting in and out of the car, or you tap it off for you to keep your settings as is and not use Easy Entry. This is how it works. So I'm driving along and I get into my driveway, or in this case, my garage. Now for the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and put it in drive. So I've got to do that, and you're going to hear a bunch of warning beeps here. So of course I got my foot on the brake, I put it in drive, and again, it's in my personal driver profile settings. I put it in park, see how the steering wheel goes up, and my seat goes up to the setting that I need to get out of the car. I get out, easier for me to get out. Now watch what happens when I close the door. The steering wheel and the seat are going to stay in the same position. So when you leave the car and go run your errands, you go into your house and then you come back to the car. So when you get back in, it's still going to be in the Easy Entry settings here. And again, I'm going to keep the door open so you can see. So again, I'm not in a very comfortable driving position, but it was more comfortable getting inside the car. And all I have to do is push the brake. Once I do that, then the settings go to where they need to be. The steering wheel, the seat, in my personal driver profile settings. Now another thing I didn't know about until I read the user manual is the fact that the side mirrors have heaters in them. Now I live in a pretty warm climate even in the winter months, so I just don't need them. So the way to turn them on is you turn on the rear window defroster, and then that turns on the side view mirror heaters. Again, something pretty simple, but I didn't know about because number one, I just don't use them, and number two, I hadn't really heard about it. Now another thing I didn't know about the car is how the windshield defroster works. I always knew that that button is what turns it on, however, I've never needed to use it. And according to the manual, and of course this is what I discovered by reading the manual, is that when you touch it once, it blows out cold air to the window defroster. You touch it twice, it turns red, and that of course blows out the warm air onto the windshield. You touch it a third time, and it turns it off. So again, just one quick thing that I'm sure a lot of people knew about, but also something that Tesla has done to make the process easier. Now that we're on the topic of climate control, I want to show you something that I discovered down the road, and that is how to turn the climate control on and off. Now to turn it on, of course, that's the easy part, right? You either push this or you push this one. So I'm going to push low, and you'll hear the fan turn on. I've got it on high settings, so it's going to blow that fan so you can hear it. Now typically to turn it off, and what the manual tells you to do, is to tap the fan icon and then push the power button to turn it off. Right? Simple enough. However, there's an easier way. So let me go ahead and turn that back on. You can hear the fan blowing. We're going to get that kind of roaring up here a bit. And there you can hear the fan. Now an easier way to turn it off is to just press and hold the fan icon down. And there you have it. A lot easier than what the manual actually says. When you open the glove box, pretty much in any car, there's going to be a light in there, and that is so you can see what's in there, especially at night. Now, the problem with ICE cars is if you leave that glove box open with the light on overnight, typically that can kill the battery, and then you can't start your car and you have to give it a jump start. Now, obviously, you're not going to have to do that with a Tesla, but they've still taken precautions, and they put a 5-minute limit on how long that interior light inside the glove box will stay on. So after putting the glove box light to the 5-minute test, it didn't seem to work. Now maybe it takes longer than that, maybe it takes closer to 10 minutes, I don't know. Maybe I didn't have the patience to see it turn off. But there is another one that I would like to put to the test. And based on the manual, you can also manually turn on individual dome light on or off by pressing its lens. If you manually turn the dome light on, which I will do right here, turn that dome light on, it turns off when the Model 3 powers off. All right, so let's put that to the test. I am in the car is powered on, but I did turn on that light as you saw. I'm gonna go ahead and close the door. I'm gonna go into the app. I'm gonna lock the door. The car has powered off, and so has the light. So it looks like that works. One of the cool features that a lot of people like is the fact that you can keep the climate on when you leave the car. Of course, it will turn itself off if the battery reaches 20% or less, but you get the idea. However, what a lot of people don't realize is that if you have the keep climate on toggled on and you're waiting for an important software update, you're not going to get it. But in order to get that software update, you need to make sure that the keep climate on is toggled off. We all know that supercharging etiquette is a bit of a problem for some people, and there's really nothing we can do about it. However, Tesla has taken at least one step to make sure people unplug their cars and move them when they're at a supercharger so other people can charge their cars. So of course they've got the idle fees. If you have your car plugged in and it's fully charged, they will charge you. However, what I didn't know until I read the owner's manual is that the idle fees are waived if you move your vehicle within 5 minutes of the charge being complete. Believe it or not, if you Google getting a gas nozzle stuck in a car, that's actually a thing, and it happens to people. So it goes without saying that your charging cable can get stuck in the car. And it happens to all kinds of people, whether you're using the adapter like I am, or whether you're using the unit that comes with the car, or the wall connector. It's even happened to people at superchargers. Now, as I mentioned, this is something that happened to me a few months back, and I did a video about it, but I did reference the manual to find out how to manually release this if it should get stuck. So let's take a look at that. All right, so I've opened the back or the trunk of the Tesla Model 3. Now you go to the left side and you see that light on the left side. Right below that light, you'll see all these slots right here. And right around here, you see this square opening. That is where you're going to reach your finger in to find the cable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger in here, I'm going to find it, and you'll see this is the rubber end right here. So it's this rubber end that you will pull to pull that cable and then manually release the charging cable. However, before you pull this cable, there are a few steps you need to take first, so we're going to go through that. Now that I've shown you where the manual release cable is inside the trunk, We need to make sure we take the necessary precautions and the proper steps before we pull that cable. First and foremost, you've got to make sure that this is really stuck. You've taken all the necessary precautions. You've gone inside the car, you've pushed unlock, you've done it for your app, you push unlock, nothing happens, it's still stuck in here. Number two, another indicator is that this light that's blinking green, which by the way means it's charging, if this is solid red, then you have confirmation that the cable is stuck inside the car. So here's what you need to do. First and foremost, you need to make sure that there's no electricity going into the car. So you can either do that from the touchscreen in the car and push stop charging, or you can do it from your app and also push stop charging. Once you've confirmed that there is no electricity going into the car, you then go to that manual release cable that's in the trunk. You pull that first. After you pull that manual release cable, you then pull the charging cable out. Now, Tesla does highly stress that you do this all in the same order. Again, number one, make sure there's no power going into the car. And number two, you don't want to pull the manual release cable and the power cable or the charging cable simultaneously. You need to make sure you pull the manual release cable first, then the charging cable. Because Tesla states in the manual, if you don't do it properly, you run the risk of getting electric shock. I mean, after all, we are dealing with high voltage here. So you need to make sure that you do this properly and safely. Now, I have to admit that I am embarrassed and quite honestly ashamed that I haven't read the owner's manual sooner. But kind of going in it with the frame of mind of a 700+ page manual that the Toyota Tundra has. I mean, who wants to sit down and read a manual that big? And then recently discovering that it's only 184 pages, at least the Tesla Model 3 owner's manual is 184 pages long. So certainly not the 700+ that the Toyota Tundra has. And you know, this is something that I'm glad I did because I discovered a few new things. And I think the biggest surprise for me was the easy entry mode. It's something I'd never come across before or heard of. So it was kind of nice to know that I have that feature. And a couple of other features that I discovered along the road were the charging cable getting stuck and the side view mirrors. Those were things that I kind of discovered along the way as well. But I really do highly recommend that you read the owner's manual. It's not like any others I mentioned before. It's not nearly as long, and it doesn't take that long. So maybe download it on your computer, sit down for a couple of hours, read it. Maybe if you're supercharging, you can get something cold to drink or warm, depending on how cold or hot it is outside. And while you're supercharging, read the owner's manual. Do yourself a favor. You'll learn something new. And this is a highly sophisticated piece of machinery, and you want to take advantage of everything that Tesla Model 3 has to offer. And the only way you're going to do that is to learn everything you can about the Tesla Model 3. And the first place to start, believe it or not, is the owner's manual. So thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Better yet, you can subscribe to my channel. I'm working on more and more videos along the way and really helping to maybe help people decide whether or not they want to get a Tesla Model 3. I know it's a big decision, and hopefully these videos can kind of help you come to that conclusion. And by the way, for the rest of the month of May, if you use my referral code, or really any referral code in general, you will be able to take advantage of 5,000 miles of free supercharging. But once June 1st comes along, it will then go back down to 1,000 miles of free supercharging. So I'll of course be sure to put my referral code at the bottom of this video. So once again, thank you all so much for watching, and until my next video, stay positively charged.